Hey everyone, Elijah here, back with another video. The last video I posted about the mid-game being a lie. I got a lot of engagement and questions about progress and how to move between tiers. So I thought I would compile a list of 3 moneymakers at each stage of the game that I could find, that I think will help move on to the next tier. If you'd like to know more about the tiers and their specific goals and requirements that I'm going to cover in this video, check out my last video before jumping into this one. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit weird this video, I'm a bit sick at the moment, but I'm pushing through. I want to say once again, thank you for the huge amount of support on my last video. I really appreciate it. As my way of saying thank you, I'm also going to help out one lucky player on their journey. I'm going to pick out one comment from this video to win a bond for their account, or the gold equivalent of a bond. All you have to do to be eligible to enter is be subscribed, like, and leave a comment on the video. And make sure to leave your RSN in the comments so I know who to give the bond to. And if this video gets 2,000 likes before my next upload, I'll give away 3 bonds instead to thank you for your support.
Before we get onto the moneymakers, I want to establish a few things. Firstly, 100% you don't need to do these specific moneymakers, and you also don't have to do the best moneymaker for your level either. Some of the most fun I've had is randomly deciding an item on a grind and pretend that I'm an Iron Man for a day instead of saving up gold to buy it. And you don't have to restrict yourself into doing the most efficient gold making methods. As Sid Meier and Civ co-designer Soren Johnson said, given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game. Don't let your fun get optimized out of the game. Secondly, gold is not the be all and end all. Something I want to clarify from the last video was gold amounts. Those were merely breakpoints that I personally found to be impactful in the amount of upgrades and unlocks you could get, whether that be a tangible difference in your durability or DPS. But by no means is that mandatory. You can 100% do Zora without 1 bill worth of items, but naturally with 1 bill worth of items, your time will be a lot easier, which is why we all focus on getting gold and upgrades in the game. Lastly, your journey is your own. We're all on separate paths. I would want to offer some information to try and help you make your journey a bit better. If your favorite moneymaker is picking flax, who am I to judge? Or if you work full-time 9 or 10 hours a day and only get a couple hours a week to play the game, and would happily spend some money on bonds to get a new upgrade so that you can go PVMing with the boys and not have to grind as much, and you find that fun, all power to you. This game is very personal to each person that plays it. There's no right way to do things. So with that out of the way, let's get into the right way to do things.
I found 3 different types of moneymaker for each tier that I listed in the last video. The highest GP per hour for that tier, the most consistent moneymaker for that tier, and the most AFK moneymaker for that tier. This will hopefully give you a few options at each stage of the game to make money in a way that suits you. Tier 1, Beginner. You'd think at this level there wouldn't be any good moneymakers, however you'd be wrong. There are some pretty great moneymakers with no requirements at all. The best moneymaker that I could find at this level is crushing birds' nests. You can do a click-intensive method where you can make up to 1.2 mil per hour crushing nests. This means you could pick up some strong upgrades like an Amulet of Fury, Abyssal Whip, or 70 Prayer in just a few hours of crushing birds' nests. The amazing thing about Bird's Nest is this is also the best AFK moneymaker for this level, as you can just click on one nest and leave your character AFK crushing inventories of nests for about 460k profit per hour. Crushing Bird's Nest has no requirements at all, except ideally some starter capital. However, you could easily go do the Stronghold of Security to get 10,000 GP right at the beginning of the game, and simply invest this in your first few nests, and then once you turn a profit, just buy more nests every time. I would recommend price checking the birds' nests beforehand so that you can see how much profit you're planning on making, and there's also another method, making pile logs, that has no requirements either. Similar to birds' nest, this one requires some slow buying and selling to maximize profits. I also suggest having a look at this table on the OSRS wiki to see what the best profits are at the time, and you can focus on those logs or potentially hedge and buy some different logs from the top 2 or 3 options. At current prices, making redwood pile logs this way is about 1 million GP profit per hour. Moving on to our second moneymaker. This one also has no requirements whatsoever. It's LMS. Now, I'm not a great PKer, and even I can do okay. There are actually so many bots in here that you can get points much more easily than you would think. You can see in this run, by the time my first battle finished, half the survivors were already dead. So picking up points even as a beginner might be easier than you think. And if you die, it doesn't matter, you don't lose anything. 1 point is worth about 32k GP, so even if you can get about 15 points per hour, you can make some decent cash with no requirements. If you can manage to pull more than that, 25 points per hour, you can be getting closer to 800k to 1 mil GP per hour. This method also doesn't rely on buying things off the GE or requiring any starting capital whatsoever. As a bonus, I wanted to include some free-to-play methods if you're maybe working your way up to your first bond as a free-to-play player or looking to regain membership. The 3 best options that I found was casting bones to bananas, which does seem strange, but if you slow buy up lots of bones and then sell the bananas at a decent price, you can get some decent magic XP, but you can see from how quickly I'm casting here, you need quite a supply to make this last for an hour. You also need 15 magic and a water staff, but this can net you 120k profit per hour and about 20,000 magic XP, which is not bad for free to play. Another option I found is grinding chocolate bars. This, again, you can see how quickly I'm grinding these chocolate bars, is actually going to go through quite a lot very quickly, so you'd want to get a fair amount before you start. I would also strongly recommend using the custom menu entry swapper to change the option to left click use. The last option I found applies to both free-to-play and members. It's alching. This does have a decent magic requirement, but you can use this page on the old school RuneScape wiki to find items that are profitable to alch, and then you can buy them and get magic XP while you make profits.
If you find some decent items to alch, you can make 500 to 800k GP profit per hour and about 75k magic XP per hour, assuming 1200 high alch costs.
Just to recap, here are our top 3 methods for beginner tier for best GP, most consistent, and most AFK.
Partway through recording this episode and editing, my new mic arrived, so hopefully it's not too jarring, but I'll use it for the rest of this video. Adventurer tier. At Adventurer tier, you have access to some slightly better and less market-dependent moneymakers, things that don't require you sitting there at the GE buying and selling things for many hours at a time. Firstly, barrows. I would try to recommend completing the Mauritania Hard Diary, as this gives more runes for each run, and I would also recommend a stack of Barrows tablets and Ring of Dueling teleports if you don't have a strong POH, to be able to restore your stats at the pool in the Ferox Enclaves, and to easily repeat runs and use less money on prayer and restore potions each run. One chest with the Mauritania Hard Diary complete is about 78,000 GP, and without the diary, it's closer to 67k. So the diary isn't the most important thing ever, but it can make a big difference. With the diary completed, you can expect to make about 650k GP profit per hour. Zulrah. This one is certainly a trickier one to pick up, and Zulrah is far from the best moneymaker like it used to be. But even with a 4-way switch that you can see that I'm using here, you can easily teleport to Zulrah, get 1 to 3 kill trips, teleport to a bank, and then be back at Zulrah very fast, and easily make 1.2 to 1.5 million GP per hour. As for our most AFK money making method for the Adventurer tier, it's gargoyles. If you're looking for a less intensive way to make GP at this level, and it's something you'd rather slowly chip away at on the side, I can highly recommend gargoyles. The whip and the fang are only about a 5% DPS difference here, so you happen to have a fang, use that. If you don't have bandos, just use proselyte. Any other strength gear is not worth it. I would also recommend a Ring of Wealth to automatically pick up all your coin drops, as those will quickly add up. I'm also using a plugin called Highlight Stackables. You can get this on the plugin hub, and what it does is it shows and highlights items on the ground that is stackable with items you already have in your inventory. This makes it pretty brain dead to be able to just pick up the items you need when they drop. I'd recommend not using Piety, but if you can get 150 kills here per hour, that's close to a 620k profit per hour, which is pretty good for a quite AFK method. Unfortunately, it does require 75 Slayer, but that's all the requirements that you need. Onto our consistent moneymaker for the Adventurer tier, Tanned Leather. It's a lunar spell that tans 5 hides in your inventory, and you must have completed the hard tier of the Fremnik Diary as well as having 78 magic. However, if you can manage 8,000 hides per hour, you'll make 130k XP per hour, as well as close to 1.4 mil GP if the prices are right. I've attached here a table that's on the tan leather wiki page that shows a breakdown of the profit per tan. So to recap our moneymakers for the adventurer tier, for our best GP per hour we have Zulrah, and if you want something a bit less intensive, Barrows. For our most AFK we have Gargoyles, and for our most consistent we have tan leather. Moving on to hero tier. Hero opens up quite a few different PvM opportunities. However, the best moneymaker for the hero tier is killing wilderness bosses. Venenatus is about 7.1 mil per hour. It is a bit of a risk going into the wilderness, but even best in slot gear setups don't cost that much, and you can bring setups like this to bring your risks down to only about 500k per death. At 7.1 mil per hour, you'll easily make back far more than you lose. Even the easier bosses, the singles versions, are about 5 mil GP per hour, so if you want you can just stay there, don't even bother going in multi, and you're far harder to PK. For our best AFK moneymaker for the hero tier, it's Firewatch Sentinels. For about 500 to 600k profit AFK on the side with 10 minutes of AFK time, this is an incredible method. On top of that, it's actually secretly a really good training method as well if you don't want to use Nightmare Zone, or you just want to make some cash while you train. The XP rates here are pretty good. I would recommend bringing an inventory like this, don't use Divine Potions, don't pray Piety, and I would also recommend changing the left click options on the non-aggressive NPCs to walk here so you don't accidentally talk to NPCs when you're trying to pick up items. For our most consistent methods, there are two: Bone Running and Essence Running. You might have seen Bone Running in Hiboxwan's world record speedrun for the Max Cape, and Essence Running was also used in his speedrun. Both of these requirements are in the respective discords that I'll leave a link to in the description of the video. It can take a bit of time to become a good runner, and you do pay a cost penalty when you're first learning, but if you get good, you can make a consistent 7 to 8 mil GP per hour running Essence for people. You might have to wait around a little while to find a runner, but when you see that opportunity, you can jump on it straight away. Okay, so to recap the hero tier. For our best moneymaker, we have killing wilderness bosses. For our most AFK moneymaker, we have Firewatch Sentinels. And for our most consistent moneymaker, we have Bone or Essence Running in their respective discords. Moving on to Legend. The best moneymaker, if you can pull it off, is TOA Experts. The higher invocation level you can get, the better. If you can pull off consistent 400s with this gear and your stats, you can get around 7 to 8 mil GP profit per hour, and a purple in about 1 in every 10 runs. The more raid level you can get, the better, as it is king in predicting purple chances. However, this is a far cry from a relaxing way to make some GP, so if you're looking for something more AFK, Rune Dragons are amazing. In my gear setup here, I'd be making even more than this, but if you get Justicia and a Fang, you could make about 1.6 mil GP per hour in profit. Even in just this quick run with the Bando setup, I made about 250k, and my supplies did not cost that much, it was only sharks. You do sacrifice a little bit of profit per hour taking Justicia and a DFS instead of a Defender and Bandos, however, I think this is more than worth it if you're looking for a more chill AFK moneymaker on the side where you can watch Netflix or YouTube. As for our most consistent moneymaker at the Legend tier, Vorkath has to be it. Back in the day, there was a debate between whether Zulrah or Vorkath was the better moneymaker. In today's age, Vorkath is the winner hands down. Vorkath right now with the Dragon Hunter Lance or Dragon Hunter Crossbow works out to be about 3 mil profit per hour. This is incredibly good, and the money comes in alchables and drops, so you can be guaranteed that you're going to make about 3 mil every hour you do this boss, unlike TOA where you're going to have to wait for a big drop. Recapping our Legend moneymakers, for our best moneymaker TOA Experts with the raid level as high as you can manage, our most AFK is Rune Dragons, and our most consistent moneymaker is Vorkath. Veteran. Our best moneymaker at this level could technically be the Desert Treasure 2 bosses, however I would also consider the Wilderness bosses, but as I mentioned during the previous video, the Veteran tier is when almost all PvM opens up. You can do any kind of content here. The best moneymaker could be any of the previous ones I've listed, Desert Treasure 2, TOA Experts, etc. Up to you here. Anything that takes high effort can make good money. As for our best AFK method, it's Rune Dragons again. I would consider getting an alt here if you want to make some money on the side and you're looking for something AFK to do while you work on your buyer bulls and bank stand, or while you do other AFK methods such as star mining. Here's a screenshot of an alt at mine that I use at fires. As you can see, it's incredibly worth it if you can be bothered to do it. As for our most consistent moneymaker, it's actually not the wilderness bosses, but revenants in this sort of max gear higher risk method that I'm showing here. You don't risk all that much, but if you can manage to be consistent here, you can make over 7 mil per hour. Yeah, this is actually better money than any of the wilderness bosses, and it's technically lower risk. I will say it's a little bit more dull, but you're looking for consistent money, whereas the wilderness bosses do require you to camp them for a while until you get a Void Waker piece to make a lot of money. So to recap our 3 methods for veteran tier, best moneymaker, anything you really feel like doing, most AFK, Rune Dragons again, maybe consider an alt, and for the most consistent money, revenants in higher risk. PVM guard. Like I mentioned in the last tier, the best methods here can kind of be anything, although one method does stand above the rest, doing necks. And if you can manage it in duos, you can make insane money, 17 plus mil per hour. A lot of people don't like necks and don't like camping it for too long, but if you can do it in smaller teams or duos, you can make a crazy amount of money. As for the most AFK, you can open this up to just about anything. If you're at the PVM God tier, you're probably looking to avoid burnout. You could do Vires, Rune Dragons, you could give your hand at flipping, but there's not much else here different than previous tiers. The most consistent options are probably Phantom Musper, Hydra, or Vorkath, depending on the gear setups you take, your stats, and just what kind of PVM experience you're looking for. As for our last tier, you already have max cash, you probably have all the items you need, so I won't really go too in depth, but you could consider doing any sort of flipping. If you could manage even a 1% ROI on a 10 bill bank, you could see just how quickly you could make a truckload of money. Okay, that covers off all our money making methods. I hope you found something useful in this video that helped you. If you did, please consider subscribing. The support from all you utter legends has been astounding. Remember, if you want to be eligible to win the bond, make sure you like the video, leave a comment and subscribe, and put your RSN in the comment so I can add you in game. I just want to take a quick minute before the outro to say thank you, seriously, to each and every single one of you. I've been making these videos in every spare minute I have after I get home from work, so it's so heartwarming to see the support you've all given me. Thank you very much. I'd love to move toward doing the YouTube thing full time if it works out, but we'll see. As long as you guys keep supporting me, I'll keep making content. Thanks for watching.